It usually starts with silence, a message left on read, a call that goes to voicemail. That uneasy feeling in your chest that says something is slipping and you're about to lose it. So you do what feels human, what feels loving, what feels desperate but honest. You reach out again. You explain. You apologize. You promise to change. You tell them how much they mean to you. You ask, no, you beg for one more chance, and somehow everything gets worse. They pull back even more. Their replies get colder. The distance grows. This is the part no one prepares you for. Begging doesn't bring people closer. It often pushes them further away. Not because you're weak, not because you don't care enough, but because of how human psychology actually works under emotional pressure. Let's talk about why, not in a motivational poster way, not in a just be confident cliche, but in a real, uncomfortable, honest way, because understanding this can save you from repeating the same pain again and again. When a connection is healthy, closeness flows naturally. There's give and take, curiosity, mutual effort. But when someone starts pulling away, something important has already shifted inside them. It might be attraction, it might be respect, it might be emotional safety, it might simply be clarity. Whatever it is, they are already moving backward. Begging doesn't reverse that movement, it collides with it. Here's the first hard truth. Begging changes the power dynamic. And humans, whether we admit it or not, are extremely sensitive to power. When you beg, you're unconsciously saying, I need you more than you need me. My emotional stability depends on your choice. You hold the power here. The attraction, connection, and respect don't grow in that environment. They shrink. Not because the other person is cruel, but because neediness triggers discomfort. Think about it. Have you ever felt someone grabbing onto you emotionally when you were already unsure? That tightening feeling, that urge to create space? That's what begging creates. Another uncomfortable truth, begging turns love into pressure. You might think you're expressing feelings, but from the other side, it often feels like emotional responsibility, guilt, obligation, weight, and pressure kills desire. When someone feels responsible for your pain, your sadness, your sleepless nights, they stop seeing you as a partner and start seeing you as a burden, even if they once cared deeply, even if they still do, somewhere inside. Begging doesn't remind them of love. It reminds them of escape. There's also something else happening beneath the surface, something subtle but powerful. Begging removes mystery. Attraction feeds on curiosity. On the question, do they still want me? Where do I stand with them? What are they thinking? When you beg, you put everything on the table. Your fears, your intentions, your desperation, your willingness to accept less. There's nothing left to discover. Nothing left to wonder about. And when curiosity dies, emotional engagement follows. But maybe the deepest reason begging pushes people away is this. It signals that you've abandoned yourself. When someone watches you lower your standards, cross your boundaries, accept disrespect, just to keep them, they don't feel closer. They feel uneasy. Because on a subconscious level, people trust those who trust themselves. When you beg, you're saying, I don't believe I'll be okay without you. That belief leaks into every word, every text, every pause, and it quietly erodes respect. Not because you're unworthy, but because you're showing the world you don't feel worthy on your own. Here's the cruel irony. The more you beg to be chosen, the less choosable you become. The more you chase clarity, the more confusion you create. The more you try to prove your value, the more you communicate doubt about it. And none of this is because you're broken. It's because your nervous system is trying to survive loss. Now let's slow this down. Because understanding why this happens isn't enough. You need to understand what to do instead, especially when every instinct in your body is screaming to reach out. The opposite of begging is not manipulation. It's not silence as a tactic. It's not pretending you don't care. It's not playing games. The opposite of begging is self-regulation. It's choosing dignity over panic. It's allowing discomfort without acting from it. And that's incredibly hard. Especially in a culture that teaches us to fight for love without teaching us when fighting actually destroys it. When you stop begging, something interesting happens. At first, it feels like loss, like giving up, like you're letting the connection die. But then something shifts. You stop bleeding emotionally in front of someone who isn't holding you. You stop chasing reassurance that never sticks. You stop negotiating your worth. And suddenly, the dynamic changes. Sometimes they notice, sometimes they don't, but you do. You feel your spine straighten, your breathing slow, your thoughts clear, and that's when real power returns. Not power over them, power over yourself. Here's another truth most people won't say out loud. If someone comes back only because you begged, they didn't come back freely. They came back out of guilt, or fear, or convenience. And relationships built on guilt don't last. They rot quietly. Because deep down, both people know the truth. One stayed because they felt sorry. The other stayed because they were afraid to let go. That's not love, that's emotional hostage-taking on both sides. Now let's address the fear behind begging. The real fear isn't losing them. It's losing the version of yourself that existed with them, the routines, the identity, the future you imagined. Begging is an attempt to freeze time, to undo reality, to avoid grief. But grief can't be negotiated. It has to be walked through. And here's the part that feels almost unfair. Distance is more attractive than desperation. Not because distance is cold, but because it signals strength. When you step back instead of begging, you communicate something powerful without saying a word. I respect myself. I can survive disappointment. I don't need to collapse to be loved. That energy is rare, and rarity creates value. This doesn't mean silence will magically make someone come back. Sometimes nothing brings them back, and that hurts, but begging doesn't prevent that outcome. It just delays your healing and damages your self-respect along the way. If someone truly wants to be with you, they don't need convincing, they don't need pleading. They don't need you to bleed emotionally to understand your worth. They choose you freely, and if they don't, begging won't change that truth. It only hides it for a moment. So if you're standing at that edge right now, phone in hand, heart racing, drafting one more message, pause. Not to be strategic, not to be manipulative, but to protect yourself. Ask this one question. Will this message come from strength or fear? If it comes from fear, it will cost you something, every time. Letting go without begging is one of the hardest emotional skills to learn, but it's also one of the most powerful. Because when you stop begging others to stay, you start choosing yourself to remain. And that choice, that's where real healing begins.